Hi, welcome to Understanding Conscious Cryptids with me, Khat Hansen, your host. Hi everyone, it's me, Khat, and this is going to be our next lesson, is the dimensions around us. I want to talk a little bit about why most people don't have, the ability to accept more than our three dimensions that exist here on our earth. And sometimes they're able to really, just go on and accept the fourth dimension too. That's not too hard for their brains to grasp. And I want to say straight out, I'm not saying that if you don't understand more than three dimensions, you're an idiot. That's not the case. If you remember, I always say that your brain is not your friend. Here in our world, we live in a 3D world of solid objects and space that's limitless. It's just something we don't even think about. No, I don't even think about it. You don't think about it. It's just a given. If you start thinking about time, sometimes that gets a little bit harder, but for the most part, most of us grasp that as well. We're like time, forwards, backwards, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, because we assign names and figures of speech for them. It's when we start to think about the other worlds, that I talk about, and then I start talking about the different dimensions and putting that into perspective for people, that it seems to kind of go hinky. That's going to be my word I'm going to use today, is hinky. It goes hinky. And that's because when we start to see these beings that inhabit the other realms, they're not so sure about us either. And add to that the fact that we look so different to each other, that's where I begin to lose most people and students, believe it or not. It's not the fact that I explain to my students that they have to take this step in being able to accept. We tell each other that we can accept a person, a human being of different color, and or race. But then, once we've done that, then we are given another lesson, if you will, in acceptance, and saying that the beings that inhabit these other dimensions are not pretty. Some are not pretty at all. Others are very beautiful. But some, to our eyes and our mind, appear to be scary and frightening and horrifying, and it's just so unusual for people to see other beings that their brain really shuts down. It's like they classify everything, as I've said before, in these little categories, and nothing can happen to those categories. They have to stay in nice, neat rows, the way that everybody puts them into their mind. Well, once this happens, it's like coloring outside the lines. Your brain goes, whoops, wait, stop. What is this thing I'm seeing in front of me? Oh, well, that can't really exist. So your brain does the natural thing and shuts it down. And a lot of times people just walk past or back up or just leave the situation completely. And it happens a lot when people are out in the forests. And this is something I really want to talk about because I feel very strongly about it. When you're out and about in the forest, I've told people you need to be aware and be careful. Well, forested areas are very susceptible to the doorways, the veils between the worlds, the realities, because if you remember, everything that I've told everyone for years is that everything has a different vibrational frequency. Okay? And what you're looking at may appear to be solid to you, but it really isn't. Okay? So we've got the different vibrational frequencies going on already in everything on this earth. But when you go into a forest, you have pure, unadulterated Gaia, earth energy coming through. And that is something that is strong. It acts like a magnet so that the doorways can open, because Gaia knows that for beings to come to this realm, they need to be able to pass through to our dimension safely so that they will not be accosted. And if they are accosted, then it makes it harder for her to allow them to come through and to teach them. That's right, I've said it again. This planet is a teaching planet. And these beings, creatures that are different than us come through because it's actually being opened for them. The doorways in the forests are being opened because it's easier for Gaia to open the doorways, to set the veils to be very thin in certain spots, because that is her ability, and she has a very hard time opening those doorways where humans have put concrete, asphalt, negative thinking, negative actions, anything like that just stops her. It hinders her because it's not something that she originally had to deal with. Now, I'm not saying that she's weak and that, that we're omnipotent, because I've said many times, human beings are not the be-all, end-all that we think we are. Take yourself, take someone you know, drop yourself naked into a forest, or up in the Arctic, or in the desert, and I guarantee you, without the right equipment, you're going to die. Okay? Without some help. And that's what Gaia is doing. So, you hear some running around with the bell here. I apologize. It's Tinkerbell. She seems to think that she needs to go out and about, but she doesn't. So just please bear with me and ignore her. Anyway, what I'm saying is that Gaia is actively helping her students come through the veils, the different dimensions, different realities, whatever terminology you want to use for them. And these creatures that come through, some choose to stay here, and others are just passing through. They have something here that they want to learn or interact with, and then they leave. They don't stay here permanently. They just leave. And that's like someone going to the classroom, taking down the lesson that they need to know, and then moving on to the next classroom. If you think of it that way, then it really turns into, this earth being a school, and all of us are here. So think of it like a giant high school. You interact with so many different people in high school, yet you still have an inner circle. Your posse, your crew, your friends, whatever term you want to use. It's just a basic thing where everyone has it and everyone accepts it until you come to the reality that's here in the forest. Tinkerbell is freaking out, everybody, so I feel like doing Elvis. Tinkerbell has left the building. She's going outside. Sorry, we're going to call her Racer X. Anyway, I just want people to understand that when you come face to face or have an interaction with another being from another dimension, sometimes, for the most part, it's good. And then there are that small percentage that are not so good. Okay? And I want to talk about that in our next lesson. But for right now, what I want everyone to understand is that you have a better chance of running into something or someone from a different dimension when the how do I put this? The continuum for our timeline and our history is lined up perfectly with these doorways in the forest. Period. Now, I'm not saying that you can't run into a different dimension, be taken through or step through in the outside everyday city world, because that does happen occasionally, and you hear about people being transported from one spot to another. That is just something, think of it like this, a giant beam, giant pillar of light, beam, whatever you want to call it. It's just going in a circle across the sky, and it actually stops for 2 seconds and hits a sidewalk in France. The person coming down the sidewalk doesn't even realize, he thinks it's a shaft of sunlight or something, and steps into it to pass through to the other side. Unfortunately, he stepped into a rift. He stepped into a different dimension completely. Now here's the funny part about this. These rifts, if they don't line up completely, then as he's stepping through, he's going to continue through into our world. You know, it's just like something happened for a split second that he doesn't even realize. But as he continues through that beam and steps his foot through, he's now transported to Norway, or maybe 6 blocks away, whatever, however long the rift is how long and where he's going to step through to. So it can either be to somewhere else completely, or it can be, you know, just passing through and stepping and thinking he's going down the street, and he's not. Now he's 6 blocks away, across the country away. You know, it just depends on how big that rift is and how big the vibration is to carry him. Okay, I know most of you are sitting here going, oh my God, Kat, you're making my brain hurt. I'm sorry for that, but I really think this needs to be said because people are having a hard time understanding how, what, and why the dimensions work. And that being said, I'm going to stop this lesson, and we're going to go ahead and go on to the next lesson, which I hope doesn't make your brain hurt. I hope it makes you happy. So we're going to end that for today, and I say thank you, and see you next time.